Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, great. You're the one that there's a pop waiting for. Yeah. This one's better. This one's better. Yeah. Yeah, we're at
Hopefully it's not recording.
No, I am sure. Yeah.
Oh, no. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see friends and family all gathered here. Thank you for making the trip. I know sometimes it might be a little tricky to find the Prim Library and get the exact spot, but you've discovered a beautiful campus if you haven't been here before. This is being telecast, so for all the family and friends that are out there, welcome as well. And thank you for coming today. To me, it's always a sad day, and it's also a celebratory day, all mixed together, just because I just want to keep staying in conversation, you know, like in these 10 intense days and the way we do. But it's a celebration of really hard work and work that's made in a connection to something that's so deeply integral to all of our lives. And I used to work in a factory. I was a machinist, and I would dream about things that I would like to do one day. And we're doing the things that we want to do. This is the dream that I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to be a part of. So it's exciting to see each of you here. I'm grateful for the work that you do, and I look forward to the work that you will do in the future too. You know I talk too much. That's what I normally do. I'm just going to say one thing, and I know that we have difficult things that have to be attended to with our words. There's injustice in the world. There are painful things that have to be recognized. There are political issues that must be addressed and can't be left silent. There are a myriad of things that our words are meant to challenge and take on. But I would encourage you to always make sure, and I know you will, to lean on the source that will help you most. And that's the well of the word love. If your words come from that well, you'll find the words that you need. So I'd like to introduce our provost up to the stage, Shannon Beats, who is such a wonderful supporter of our program. Thank you.
It's my deep pleasure to be here today. I go to a lot of graduation ceremonies, but I'm always especially moved when I get to come here and acknowledge all of our new creative writing students. School administrators are not known for their brevity. I fall into that trap often, but I'm humbled by the talent and the grace with words that are before me in this audience, and so because I'm humbled, I'll be brief. You have two things that are going to allow you to give us the future that all of us want and need. You have the power of words, and you have a deep, supportive community behind you. I've seen evidence of both of those things all week as I've watched you read, I've watched you support one another, I've watched you critique and grow in each other's work. So please, take that power with you out into the world and do what you do with words. Bring us joy, bring us laughter, bring us justice, console us in our grief, and describe for us things that we never imagined could be true. I'm ready, and I'm ready to listen to all of you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really honored to be here, and I promise to try and keep my comments brief as well. SNC began with a dream. It was the dream of some free-spirited Berkeley environmentalists who wanted to build a liberal arts college up here in the mountains, to establish an earth-friendly institution where people could gather and learn in a place so beautiful that it was bound to affect our minds and imaginations. And somehow they pulled it off. They did it. They made the dream happen. Sierra Nevada College opened its doors in 1969, and against all odds, they've never shut yet. Roughly 30 years ago, I walked through those doors to teach English here, and I also had a dream. I had several, actually, too many to list, but I had one that was my opus. And I think I need somebody behind me supporting me on this. Maybe it's Brian. I fed this dream on tiny little crumbs because I knew for a long time that I could not pull it off on my own. I needed some magic, maybe a wizard. And when you need a wizard, sometimes they come. In 2010, Brian Turner came here to be a visiting writer, aka wizard. Thanks, Caitlin. And during his time here as a visiting writer, I told him about this dream I had, and he goes, "We could do this." And that's really all I needed to hear. So we started work on this proposal. It was great. Words were flowing, ideas. We could do this, we could do that. But then out of the paperwork came an insurmountable obstacle, a freaking monster. Math. It was like the one thing we couldn't do. It was the worst kind of math, too. It was like, show your work. So as often happens when you need help, help arrives. It came in the form of Shannon Beats, who swooped down and said, "I can do this. I know how to do this." So she wrangled those numbers and she crunched them and she put them in little boxes until she made them say exactly what we needed them to say to get this MFA going. Since then, she's had a son who she named Math, and she says it's not connected, but I'm not so sure. Anyway, it took a team that said, yes, we can. Si se puede. We can do this together. And the person who led the way still leads the way, and I've made him wear a funny little hat. And he's down with that, just to show you what a great guy he is. He still leads the way. He set the beacons ablaze, and he called in his banners, and he assembled the fiercest, most loving, most lion-hearted faculty you can ever imagine. You know it because you studied with them, and they're here now. I know each one of you has benefited from the light that he sheds in our program. He shines it all the time, from the candle onward. Today, as we celebrate you graduates who chose to walk through this door as well, and chose to make your dream come true, your dream of an MFA in your genre. We congratulate you. We're there with you. We support you, and we recognize your achievement. The long hours of work you've committed to the pages you've sweated over, probably cried over as you honed your words. The one thing that I ask you is to keep shining that light. As solitary as writing is, your work doesn't exist in a vacuum. Here at SNC, it has been sparked, stoked, and refined through workshops, conversations, reading lists, and more. Your work is in conversation with works that came before, and it is in conversation with works that will come after. The world needs your voice, your words, but it also needs you to amplify the voice of other writers. Along with staying committed to your own words, your own poetry and prose, one way you can honor your time here is to make it part of your life to extend your hand to other writers. As you graduate and go off in the many directions you'll go, keep lighting the candle. Stay connected to your community here and share it in other places. Create new writing communities, mentor other writers, start a reading series, edit a literary journal, start a middle school writing club. Review your friend's book that is 800 pages long. Let the ladder down and shine that light so others can find their way up. In short, be like Brian. So say yes to opportunities, celebrate your success and the success of others. And if your courage flags, I'm going to give you a little charm you can say. Just start a new adventure with the words, in the name of Brian. In the name of Brian, I create this writers club. In the name of Brian, I convene this writing. In the name of Brian, I will post this blog. Most of all, keep your own writing flame lit. Don't let it gutter out. Allow your writing community to feel your fire, even as you feel theirs. And as Gail would have me say to conclude, rip ass.
I truly knew that June needed no introduction. I was spoken. All right, so they keep me around for math, and they keep me around to read things like these. The Board of Trustees, in accordance with the Charter of Sierra Nevada College, reserves the authority to approve the granting of all academic degrees. With the unanimous approval of the Board of Trustees, I hereby delegate to the Director of Creative Writing, the wizard, the authority to confer these degrees today. Mr. Director, please proceed.
So I'd like to ask Al Heathcock to introduce Aaron Campbell. Al Heathcock.
I met our next candidate in an airport in Jamaica. She had an ease of confidence and intelligence in her eyes. She'd already been writing and teaching writing for several years, already had a master's degree. One might ask, considering her credentials, why she joined our program at all. I had her in workshop, and her ability as a writer, her education were immediately apparent. She was an excellent workshopper. I actually had her teach lessons during our classes. But she was after something bigger, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She was here on a mission, you see. To learn more, sure, but to find out exactly how she was supposed to employ everything she'd already learned. This is the kind of writer you dream of as a mentor. Someone driven not just by taking the classes and getting the degree. She wanted to be a writer. She knew she was born to be a writer. But what was the story she was meant to tell? Now that alone is impressive. But in her final semester, she caught the edge of something, and in the summer before her editing semester, it had all come clear. At that point, what would be typical would be for the writer to cobble together 120 pages and just finish out the degree. But that's not why she's here. That's not what she's after. So she decided in the 11th hour to start her thesis anew. To succeed as an artist, I think you have to follow that sometimes crazy instinct to do the thing again simply because you know it's better and it's right. And through a number of challenges, both on and off the page, she got to work. Now, sometimes work like that will grind you to dust, but sometimes the pressure makes a stone into a jewel, which is exactly what happened in this case. To be willing to move forward with certainty but against reason is often the deciding factor of someone who is truly a master versus someone who merely holds a degree. her example, her diligence, her dedication, her high standards, as well as her work, is precisely what we hope for when passing someone through and out the confines of our program and into the real world, where anything less than the effort she gave just will not make a dent. And because of that, she deserves our thanks, and she deserves our praise. She deserves our applause as we bring her to the stage, our friend and now our peer, Master of Fine Arts, Erin Campbell.
To introduce Michelle Denise will be Patricia Smith.
If you talk to any of my students, they'll tell you that my ultimate goal is to burrow deep inside their heads. I want them to hear me clearly whenever they pick up that notebook or settle down in front of their keyboards. Where's the music? That title can do a lot more work for you. Tighter, tighter, tighter. Don't be afraid to break the reader's heart and get rid of those damn INGs. There's another thing I like to say whenever writers refuse to travel beneath the dark sky of their poems, veering away from the difficult, the hard-won revelation, or questioning what they can and cannot say in their own work. You are charged with the telling of your own story. If you do not take up that challenge, you offer that story to the world to do with it what it will. You relinquish control. You move outside yourself for courage, for legitimacy, for your own truth. If you do not tell the story you were born to, you will spend your life searching the surface for your own root. There's a difference in the way Black women tell their stories. There's that utter urgency, yes, but we hold tight to a particular and peculiar language, a language gracefully skating on the edge of expletive, a language with a weapon hidden in its chest. We embrace a language that is a warning to our sons, an homage to our mothers, and a eulogy for our neighborhoods. Our language is coded. It is double negative. It is Saturday morning Chitlin construction assembly line. It is ashy knees. It is don't you know double Dutch girl? It is double consciousness. It is you can't be us if you don't see us. It is guarded gospel. When we love on the very edge of a blade. We are always, always painfully aware of our freedom and how recently we came to know it. You may say, I know a Black woman, but you don't really. You know us in your world, but not in our own. Our shields are bolted to our bodies, and thank God there is no way to lower them. The myth of the angry Black woman is not a myth, and our anger is not a device, an entertainment, or a fault in our character. It is a very real and very necessary way of moving through the world. It is a current pulsing through even what seems to be the most innocuous of our stories. Understand that it is anger that keeps us upright, and you will understand how to receive our stories. You will know how necessary and miraculous those narratives are. During her time here at Sierra Nevada College, soon to be Master Michelle Denise has worked diligently at those necessary miracles. In a place where practically no faces mirrored her own, she crafted electric stories which draw upon the complex history and brash realities of Black women. She has opened many doors, slammed others shut, and shined a fierce, unwavering light on lives too few people care to know or see. As I read her manuscript, I laughed, whooped, amened, and grew weepy with recognition. I, along with women I know who live fractured, triumphant, uncertain, beautifully Black, blessed lives, rose to every surface on every page. To know us, read us. To know us, read us. Know that a dazzling writer like Michelle, charged with the telling of her own story, sang that life out loud. Here, in the midst of so many other dazzling writers, she remained utterly herself and penned stories that opened a door you'd be fools not to walk through. To know us, read us. And to know how formidable, determined, and talented a Black woman, any woman, can be, take a close look at the very next woman to approach this lectern. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Michelle Ganis.
And for Terry Inborg, we have Mr. Alan Heathcock.
I'm going to refer to our next candidate as a natural, but there's a story, of course. It was summer residency, and she'd submitted one of the finest pieces of fiction I'd ever read in a workshop. It wasn't just obvious to me, sometimes, rarely. Something is so good that even the chippiest, backbiting students release their insecurities and openly admit something is indeed of quality. Later that evening, at an establishment near the campus, I overheard one of the author's classmates say, "But it's not fair. She's a natural." A natural. That's what they called her. Now, I would have spoken up then and there, but the spirit of the comment was benevolent enough to let it slide as the praise it was meant to be. But I thought a good deal about that comment. It's not fair. She's a natural. Now, the problem, of course, is there's no such thing as a natural. We all pay a toll, and some heftier than others. For the author in question, she's had a long and harried road. She's faced hardships that would have broken most. She's passed through life as an artist in other disciplines. She's always taken her learning seriously. Having seen her drafts and had many conversations with her, I know none of it comes easily. So much pain to confront. So much work put into every sentence, so much care, so much integrity. And yet she's never satisfied, even with the work that got the rare unanimous praise. The natural had only one question: how do I make it better? I've been mentoring writers for over 2 decades, and I've come to not believe in this thing we call talent, not in the terms it's used, that it's somehow easier for some. Because to be a great writer requires, one way or another, to develop a wide range of skill sets. The desire to always learn, to always push, to move toward betterment when others claim you already have it. Perhaps that's the trait unique to the natural, that the natural accepts the toll and pays it over and over and over through her passion and dedication and hard damn work. By those standards, yes, she is indeed a natural. And she definitely deserves our praise. And I'll now ask you to put your hands together and give a rousing round of applause to Master of Fine Arts our friend and now our peer, the natural, Terry Enbark.
Okay, people, hold on to your hats just a little bit, okay? The next person to be introduced will be Hannah Harris by Mr. Benjamin Bush. And I say this because many of us in the community know Ben very well. But for those who are new to this, this may be a slightly different experience than the usual thing. So with great affection, I introduce Ben to introduce Hannah Harris.
Greetings, tribe. It is I, Space Voice. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Again. I miss how much you must miss me. But it's probably better this way. Because of the damn shutdown, I'm all out of that good government gin. And worse, I turned 50 a month ago, and I prefer you all remember me as I was. Yeah. What was I talking about? I only really talk about two things. Myself and, Hannah Harris. Hannah Harris is a rare interspecies creature. If she took the 23andMe test, I'm fairly certain there would be an unexplainable amount of feline in her bloodline. I don't even want to theorize how that's biologically possible. But we have cats. They love a fuzzy pillow. They'll purr if you please them. They're annoyed when they're hungry, and they're pissed when you wake them up. Sound familiar? Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but she can sleep anywhere, and under ideal conditions can remain sleeping for weeks. In a bed made of butterflies and flower petals, she could go into a period of suspended animation long enough to make it to Pluto. It's supernatural, planetary, intergalactic. If she could hibernate, she might never get up again. Well, maybe just to catch the new episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And I worry about the amount of Kardashian exposure she's already had. There has to be a point at which even electroshock, surgery, and reality can't save you from things like that. Her hybrid Kardashian yoga, veterinary hospital, gay dance club dreams would freak me out. But they'll make good stories. Hannah chases bliss, but chase is the wrong word. She waits comfortably for comfort to come to her. She hates the chair she's sitting in right now. The truth is that no chair is designed for how she would like to drape herself. She's an amoeba. Brian, could you bring an ergonomic chair for Hannah? It's gonna have to be custom. There. That's better. Patricia, where does every writer's ass belong? That's right. SNC. If you can't sit well, you can't write well. The clothing? Hannah might only wear marshmallows and eyeliner if it were warm enough. And legal. She's had 41 jobs, lived in 78 apartments, had 324 roommates. These are just my rough estimates based on her writing. And turned in 198 pages of the required 120-page thesis. That part's accurate. Meaning, She owes me 5 apartments and 11 roommates for reading the extra 78 pages. Luckily, the extra pages were really good. Hannah's power is all emotional. Her sensory strings go directly from her heart to her eyes, and it's possible that she spends an average of 37 minutes of every day crying. That's over 9 days of crying a year. Her tear ducts require a liter of Evian before breakfast to keep her eyes from drying into jelly beans. I like that she seems shy. I didn't recognize it as bemusement at first. Now I know better. But her sometimes silence is oceanic, filled with sharks and hooks and invisible pressures, more vast than our comprehension of it. She measures her fathoms in paragraphs. She composes like the slow hand of fate, waves surging, no one at the wheel, the deck awash with luggage filled with anxieties, spite, pleasures, and mostly. It's fascinating how fear and love bind together as we try to keep them apart. She knows all about this. There comes a point in a millennial's life when their self-obsession ages into reflection. Yeah, I just called you out. It takes injuries, an awareness of the forces at work, the enemies revealed to be closer than you thought, and the story of how it all feels begins to find a language for it. It requires discomfort, the destruction of certainties, the discovery that vulnerability takes the largest courage. Hannah wanders this center, and by knowing where this one place is, understands the distance to all the fringes. It's emotional cartography, and she's at work on her map. She doesn't trust a compass. She doesn't like to steer. She has the habits of a passenger, but she understands motion, looks out the windows, has learned that she's the witness. I don't know where she's going, and that's the wonder of it. The best art is unpredictable. Its choices not made by the audience, but rather given as pieces of story by its owner. Their arrangement made first in chaos, then by intention. Every god makes their universe this way. It has been a gift to read her work, to watch as her sentences stepped into danger and back out into embrace. I've never read anything quite like it. Near the end of her thesis, she wrote, I cry in a cafe, convinced I remember my mother's labor, my birth. I feel with bone-deep certainty how my mother fought for me, how same we were. I feel the entireness of my mother giving herself for my life. Her work is filled with beauty. Hannah is pregnant with book. Go out there and deliver it. Congratulations, Master Harris. Raise your flag. The ship is yours.
Possible someone can.
We're not all.
You got it? And so our next reader will be introduced with Caitlin McCauley with Patricia Smith. Yeah.
I knew Caitlin McCauley before many of you knew Caitlin McCauley. When I was a visiting professor for a year at SNC, she insisted on being upfront in all of my creative writing classes. And the classes themselves were snippets of theater, populated by corn silk crowned snow bunnies, fiercely determined nerds, a quiet future goth or two, and an overload of the jockiest jocks I had ever seen, who would drag themselves into class, sun-scorched and limbs askew, mumbling that they just came off the mountain. Those of you who are teachers know how quickly a semester and a semester and a semester can blur, how all those faces can become one face, how 1, 2, maybe 3 students can spin out of the blur and become memorable. It was hard to forget Caitlin. Every single week, she sported a new blaring and unapologetic hair color and some tiny but quirky fashion innovation. In class, she was boisterous and persistent, refusing to be cowed by the boys and their overflow of boy. She hurtled into each and every assignment with a particular fervor, admitting that she did what she didn't know and then knowing it, peppering me with questions, making the early decision, I assume, that she was going to slip out of the prickly mantle of student and into the velvety mantle of writer. I never forgot a piece she wrote about her father, infusing him with spirit and charm, penning a perfect snapshot of their relationship. It was clear in her work that she was reaching for something she wanted. Before you all search Caitlin's blaring and unapologetic hair for the presence of a halo, let me say she was no angel. There were some very questionable excuses for unexcusable absences. That's why I was so happy to see her again, because I wanted that devilment up front, questioning and sassy in her velvet mantle. Caitlin settled on fantasy. And it wasn't easy for me to enter the world she had created, simply because fantasy is not a genre I choose to read when the choice is left up to me. But I read her manuscript as part of her thesis committee, and I could almost hear her laughter as she pulled me in, as her singular characters came alive and made me believe in them. I have no doubt that Caitlin will be a permanent fixture in my life. As she will become in yours. This determined and talented woman is a homegrown product of Sierra Nevada College and this program. She hung in there, she got better and better and better, and she's going for damn near perfect. And we are all the better for it. Master Macaulay.
Our next graduate, Marie Thomas, will be introduced by Pablo Cartaya.
This is now. Welcome to the carnival.
Marie LaShawn Thomas was born in Houston, Texas, just like Beyonce. Growing up, she lived in many places, including New York City. We bonded over this. We talked about living around 125 in St. Nick. And we talked about kicks, which, by the way, she designs. Yes, she designs her own kicks. But through all that commiserating of place and culture, we connected on something deeper: voice. Specifically, the voices of the marginalized who have not yet been given enough stage time in the field of young adult and children's literature. Lala, you are that rare student who turns inward to give voice to the voiceless. You do it unapologetically. You do it with every ounce of your soul, and you do it, above all, for those that don't have the opportunity to speak their truth, to tell their stories. and you do everything with love. Love the way you see it, with fierceness, with compassion, with heart. It has been my great joy to watch you grow and watch your words take shape into the power they have today. Lala, you're an incredible woman, an Army veteran, teacher, writer, fiercely loyal friend, mother. Yes, little Sierra looks to her mama from the sky, beaming with pride at the accomplishments she has made, the things she has overcome, and the things she has yet to do. Lala, eres un tesoro. You once said, if I want something, I will work 2, 3, 4 jobs to make sure I get it before I ever give up. Notice that she started with 2, because from the way I see it, her first job is writer. And dang, are we lucky to have her stories. I will end this tribute the only way I know how, combining our cultures, our languages, and our love of words. Lala, this one's for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Master Marie LaShawn Thomas, forever known to us as Lala. Give it up.
Our next graduate, Jessica Tuckerman, will be introduced by Joe McGee.
Hello, friends. Before we begin, on behalf of Jessica, I'm going to reach out to live stream land and say hello to Kyle, Mama Llama. She told me to say that. Mama Llama, Mum, and Maggie, who I know is watching. If you find yourself in a Jessica Henderson story, be afraid. Be very afraid. I once saw this quote on a coffee mug: "Do not piss off writer. She might put you in a book and kill you." Jessica brings a whole new meaning to the old writer's instruction to kill your darlings. She'll kill her darlings, and yours, and yours, and yours. She's a literary Grim Reaper, wielding her pen like a sickle. And I mention this not as an insult by any means, but as a way of recognizing a particular writing modus operandi that Jessica is known for, that she carries as a morbid badge of honor. Stephen King writes stories mostly based in Maine. Neil Gaiman employs a lot of magical realism. Jessica kills children, dogs, more children. Her most recent title that we read and discussed in workshop was Blood and Death and Glitter. And glitter was just a placeholder for something else, okay? Blood and death and more blood and death? I don't know. So I see the looks in your face. Killing in kid lit and children's literature? Oh yeah, but it happens all the time. Kid lit is not all rainbows and unicorns. Roald Dahl opens James and the Giant Peach by telling us that James's parents were gobbled up by a rhinoceros. But animals? Beloved Charlotte's Web opens up with an axe-wielding father about to go kill Wilbert and ends with Charlotte dying. Where the red fern grows is enough to bring me to tears if I think about the ending for more than 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. We could just stop at 4. Okay. But children, I mean, there are many examples, and we, let's not wander down the path of Grimm's fairy tales or anything, but think no farther than Catherine Patterson's The Bridge to Terabithia. But what does any of this have to do with Jessica? We're here to talk about Jessica, right? Well, here's how. Because Jessica Henderson does not simply do this for shock effect or to be gratuitous in any way. Jessica takes great care to approach the page, to approach her reader with an eye towards authenticity, to be genuine to the story. This is a writer with an eye towards precision. She knows her target. Many of you may not know this, but she is also an archer, like a legit competitive archer. Like if I go into the Hunger Games, I want to be on her team. She approaches her writing the same way that she approaches the archery target. In her writing, the bullseye is telling the true story. And if that means killing adults, kids, pets, you, me, along the way, then so be it, as long as it is true to the story. She tackles difficult and dark subjects, and that often means pain, loss, and death. And I've had the pleasure of working with Jessica for a while now, and I know her aim is true. She does not flinch from facing the hard truths. You see, Jessica, for all of her grim humor and killing jokes, and yes, that's an Alan Moore reference, writes about serious, sensitive topics, the kinds of topics that young adults need to have access to so that they can navigate the same conflicts they face in real life and follow the fictional protagonist through the darkness to find some light or hope on the other side. Her thesis, a young adult novel titled Beneath Still Waters, explores severe crippling anxiety and depression while deftly making socio-political commentary in a future dystopian world. Jessica understands the responsibility she carries in crafting these stories for future readers. When asked in her thesis defense who she was writing this story for, she replied, 16-year-old me. How many other 16-year-old Jessicas are out there in need of this book, I wonder? My guess is a lot. And they range in age and gender, and they struggle to feel safe in a world that is a very scary place. One of the things that I admire about Jessica is how hard she works, how much she pushes herself. I've seen her in many different environments and in many different stages of her writing career. I was one of her graduate professors at Rowan University, where she earned her BA in Writing Arts, 2014, and her MA in Writing, 2016. I helped her with her creative thesis there as well. I've had the pleasure of having her in workshop here at Sierra Nevada College, and I was one of the faculty on her thesis defense committee, where she did a fantastic job, by the way. Incidentally, she also has an associate's degree in psychology, so she's like Jessica Henderson, AS, BA, MA, MFA. Can we just say RESBCT? People always want to know the secret to getting published. The secret is that there is no one secret, but there are a few things that if you do not possess, you will not succeed. You see, writing talent is simply not enough. Jessica Henderson is certainly an extremely talented writer, but you also need drive, like a shark, never stopping. Perseverance, the desire to listen and learn, a solid work ethic, professionalism, and a genuine belief in yourself. Jessica has all of these qualities. Her website header reads, as well as a sticker on her laptop, future best-selling YA author. I think it's only a matter of time before she can remove future from that phrase. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Master Jessica Henderson.
We have one more introduction after the high fives and the low fives. And so now we have for MJ Ubando, well, Suzanne Roberts. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I am so honored to be up here to introduce this student. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself, like Benjamin Bush, I guess, to get you to understand something about MJ. So when I was in graduate school, I picked a dissertation advisor who was nicknamed the Battle Axe. And I did it because I knew that if I worked with her and I survived, I would write a really good dissertation. And the student right before me actually was told that he wasn't smart enough to get a PhD. She was mean, right?
But she was hard, and I picked her. And in some ways, I've sort of, I'm not mean, I hope, but I've sort of modeled my teaching strategies after being really, really tough, okay? So this is a student who didn't just request to work with me once, but she worked with me for 3 semester mentorships, and she survived. And as a result, she's written a really amazing thesis. And as so many others have said, being a great writer is maybe 10% talent. You guys all have talent or you wouldn't have walked in the door, right? That's not what gets you to the greatness. It's the hard work. It's the butt in the queen chair. It is, it's tenacity. And I will tell you that MJ Ubando is one of the most tenacious students I have ever worked with in over 20 years of teaching. She finished this program while teaching high school full-time. I mean, teaching high school full-time is like 2 full-time jobs. She's also a really dedicated daughter and a dedicated girlfriend and friend, and she's an important member of her writing group at home. And still, she has, and she loves TV. So, I mean, she's got all these things that, in addition to her her work. In addition, I've also been able to work with her in pedagogy, a class on excellence in teaching, where she was the most beloved member of the group. She showed herself as this master teacher already. And often I would defer to her. Like someone would say, what do you do about classroom management? And I'd say, MJ, what do you do about classroom management, right? In workshop, she was good at both critique and a gracious recipient of criticism, which also makes a great writer. And as I said, you know, the record for me is 3 semester mentorships. After the first semester together, I actually wasn't sure if I was getting through to MJ, but she wanted to show me she could do better, and she did. And after that semester, I received a card where she wrote that I had taught her that to be a good teacher, you don't have to be patient, but you have to be kind. And it was true, I think, that I had lost my patience with her. I just didn't think it was that obvious. But I was glad that I was kind. But since then, MJ has grown incredibly as a reader and a thinker and a writer, and she's figured out her subject, which is being caught between American and Filipino culture. And she's embraced both sides and the in-betweenness of this in her thesis project. And so she talks about what it's like to be American and Filipino together, and how that forms her identity. She attempts to understand where she comes from, and the thesis is also a love letter to both sides of her, as well to her family. Her mother, her father, her brother, her grandmother, her cousins, her fake Filipina aunts, her boyfriend, Roberto. And we can't help when we read this thesis project to also fall in love with all of those characters. She writes with candor and humor, and we ultimately fall in love with this narrator. She's funny, but she gets to the heart of the matter. And her writing makes you want to suck the heads of shrimp and eat chocolate meat. And she'll tell you it's made out of chocolate, but it isn't. But you should eat it anyway. I know that this collection is going to turn into a book one day, and I look forward to my signed copy. Yeah, it's just amazing. So MJ wrote an essay, okay? I actually made her cut a lot of essays from her thesis project because I'm mean, and then she had to write new ones. But she cut an essay that was about how when she was in middle school, she wanted to be student of the year, and it was totally stolen away from her. She didn't win student of the year.
But I'm here to say that MJ, in my book, you are the winner of Student of the Year. So please join me in congratulating Master MJ Ubando. I look forward to watching your writing career and cheering you on.
We can ask you to lead the way and we'll stand up and. Yes, MJ? Yeah. Very good. No
Should I
stress.
keep an alphabetical order?
I'm the one. I think in keeping with this particular evening, ladies and gentlemen, I give you, those of you streaming, I give you the winter class of 2019.
Everybody ready to ready?
Photo op time. So if you want to go and take photos, maybe you can stand right in here for a moment, real quickly. Oh, wait. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this real quick. We've never done this quite like this before, but if you stand right in here, we'll get a little paparazzi section. What you do is you lift your feet and say, here. All right, last couple of photos.
I got you covered.
All right, everyone. Please join us for appetizers and drinks, and our graduates will be out in just a moment.